This is a short screencast I wanted to record to show how I have used tryptase recently in a consultation with a patient. It was around atrial fibrillation and the use of warfarin to reduce the risk of stroke in this condition. And this patient had already been started on this treatment but was a little bit uncertain about why that decision had been taken. It had been taken in secondary care. By the way, I've asked the patient permission to share this story, although hopefully there won't be any identifiable information within it. So first of all, we just search atrial fibrillation and warfarin within tryptase. Usually my first thing to do is to go to Prodigy. So that is under with UK guidelines. So this summarises all of the background on managing conditions. It takes all the guidelines and does all the work for you. In this case, this patient had paroxysmal atrial fibrillation, so we were able to look and see that the decision was around that they should be starting on a anticoagulant or antithrombotic treatment, and the decision was around whether or not it would be aspirin or warfarin. So looking at risk, we were able to very easily see the way that the risk stratification was done, and we also had a look at the CHADS criteria. And in this particular patient, because of the combination of age and risk factors, the risk was moderate. And as you can see, with his CHADS score was over 2, which would suggest that with no contraindications, warfarin would be the preferred treatment. We also wanted to look and see, well, what were the pros and cons of warfarin. And to do that, recently TRIP has introduced patient decision aids as a search within TRIP database, which is really brilliant. So you can see, just as from my original search, there are 2 patient decision aids about atrial fibrillation and warfarin. This is from a US site. You can have a quick look at that. Doesn't really exactly take me through to 100% the right page, but this is the NPC, the National Prescribing Centre. So I really like the fact that these decision aids are within TRIP, because it means that I don't have to go and figure out where might the decision aid be. Do the NPC have one? And that if one exists, then it will show up. So again, this, the first page, this actually takes us through this stage of working out what the risk is, and then goes on to benefits and harms of warfarin. Now, a bit of a drawback is, as you can see, this does not look very much as if it is written very clearly for patients. Then we have to scroll down through, so this is aspirin lower risk patients, then we're into moderate risk patients, and we were able to look and see the risks and benefits of taking aspirin as opposed to warfarin. So in warfarin here would have, but with aspirin, 7 people would have been saved from a stroke by taking aspirin, but 21, so there's 3 times as much benefit from taking warfarin in patients of moderate risk, but also still, and that was quite useful to see those 2 compared. The very interesting was that I'd assumed that for the patient it was this kind of trade-off of was actually worth taking the warfarin for the amount of inconvenience. But when we got on further into the harms from taking aspirin and warfarin, it was here that we could see that there were 3 patients out of 1,000 who would have a major bleed because they were taking warfarin, while only 1 out of 1,000 would have a major bleed because of taking aspirin. But the patient felt that this risk of 3 in 1,000 compared to the benefit that 21 in 1,000 21 in 1,000 would actually have a stroke prevented, that there was 7 times as much risk of that benefit as there was of the harm, would actually be worthwhile. Now, one of the issues is around, you can see there's good use of colour here. When we printed this off, because we weren't able to annotate or do anything with the PDF in the consultation, and had to therefore print off a 10-page document, and we don't have colour printers in the surgery, so it came out quite grey, but the patient was still able to take it away and find it useful and discuss it with other family members, and find it was very useful. So that's just my tip again about using TRIP database in the consultation. Thank you.